Every moment in time creates questions the human mind cannot answer. Out of reach, past all we can see, hear, and touch. Beyond all we understand lies the extraordinary. Good evening. I'm Corbin Bernsen. Welcome to the extraordinary. The extraordinary is a lonely road, unexplained lights in the sky, and strange space creatures on the ground.
They believe that they've seen a UFO, they believe they've seen an entity, and they believe that they were examined.
For the first time, aliens seen by not one, not two, but 3 groups of people at the same time.
Some people might compare it to being raped, you know what I mean? It's such a shock to the system.
These aliens left physical scars on their victims. The extraordinary is the dark, foggy night a voice screamed "Stop" to Buddy Maxwell as he drove along a country road.
And I heard this voice in my ear, very plain, very distinct.
And the locomotive that missed his carload of passengers by 6 inches.
Surely at the speed I was traveling, we would have been killed if I just ignored that last stop.
It is the secret Christine Reichenbach learned about the mysterious stranger who followed her as she drove to work. What neither of them knew was they had been born 14 minutes apart in the same room, and their mothers had speculated they would one day meet and marry. They did. The extraordinary is the showdown between this gorilla and the first female apes he has ever encountered. Only dominant apes can mate. What would Ivan do? Just some of the stories that lie beyond our normal understanding. Tonight on The Extraordinary. They occur at night when our senses are peaked. They happen in darkness when we cannot see all that is out there. We don't often believe those who say that they've seen aliens. But then comes along a case like this one, and we're forced to, once again, reconsider. Warwick Moss has this story of no ordinary encounter. Investigators say it may be one of the most important sightings ever documented.
I felt the most incredible fear go through me. It was like a power source of some sort. I was raving hysterically. I was convinced I was face on with the epitome of all evil.
A terrifying encounter of the worst kind. Blinding lights, towering figures with blazing red eyes, an overpowering sense of menace that ended in violence, a nightmare, or an attack by aliens. Kelly Carl knows what she experienced, and all the evidence points to a UFO and its grotesque crew.
I suppose some people might compare it to being raped, you know what I mean? It's such a shock to the system that it's something you can never forget.
Kelly Carl still bears the emotional scars of that encounter. So much so that she asked us to protect her identity as much as we could. Returning to the scene reopens old wounds, brings the fragmented memories flooding back. Memories of a terrifying night 2 years ago when she confronted unearthly evil.
Here's something that wasn't supposed to exist, and it does. It's as simple as that, it does. It exists. There's nothing anyone can tell me to say it doesn't now, yet 2 years ago, if someone had told me that they'd had a run-in with a UFO, I suppose I would have thought they needed to be locked up.
A mountain road in August, The winter of 1993. It's around midnight. Kelly and her husband are driving home after visiting friends. Suddenly, a bright light pierces the darkness. Kelly's cozy, logical life is about to be shattered into a million mysterious pieces.
We kept driving for about 2 or 3 kilometres, turned a bend in a road, and there was well, I suppose you could say a house-sized craft sitting in the middle of the field. It was, it looked like round orange lights with some sort of blue fluorescent, I don't know whether it was gaseous or solid underneath, that hit the ground in a semicircle.
Even then, the words unidentified flying object, UFO, hammered at Kelly's brain. She and her husband seemed magnetically drawn to the lights, the craft, and whatever lay within. There was a sickening smell in the air. Waves of nausea crashed over them.
The next thing you know, there's a figure standing in the field, and then there was about 7 or 8 of them. Everything really happened too quickly. I went hysterical, I've got to admit it. I started screaming out that they've got no souls, and the next thing I know, I've been hit in the stomach and I've gone back through the air and landed flat on my back. I actually threw up through fear out there, but basically I was hysterical. There was some sort of conversation going on that I only got bits and pieces of. Funny little cliche lines like, we don't mean you any harm and we're a peaceful people. But at the same time, I've been thrown back through the air and nearly had the life knocked out of me.
Then silence, darkness. The craft, the figures disappeared. Kelly and her husband found themselves back where they began, in their car, parked by the roadside. By Kelly's reckoning, the terror lasted just 10 minutes, yet in actual fact, more than an hour had gone by. An hour Kelly could not account for. The question is, what horrors occurred during all that lost time? It's a question no one has been able to answer. Not even John Ockertell, one of the world's leading UFO researchers, can shed any light on that part of the mystery. He and a team of independent investigators have studied the incident for more than a year, and they've reached some startling conclusions.
We try to knock their case over, and in the end, if it holds up, we believe the scales are in their favour. And in the consequence of Kelly's case, everything she gave us held true. And we were very confident that we had a good case on our hands.
John Ockertell's team asked Kelly to sketch her impressions of the craft and the flame-eyed figures she confronted. As the drawings took shape, the images from that night returned to haunt Kelly's consciousness.
They were about 7 foot tall. They just looked black. I mean, I suppose like silhouettes. It was out on the field at night, but when their eyes lit up red, they were like red stoplights, like flies' eyes. They were that large on the face that they were like flies' eyes on a fly's face.
Kelly's scars from that encounter were not only emotional. First, there was the unexplained wound just below her navel that she discovered the morning after.
It was just strange. It was a triangle, and it was as if it was a burn, but not enough to blister it. But it was probably more impressive later on when the actual red went away and it left the outline of a scar there. And I actually took measurements of that, and it was a perfect centimetre every way. It was a perfect isosceles triangle.
Then Kelly's abdominal pains began. The initial diagnosis, an unusual infection in the womb, the kind that sometimes follows a miscarriage. But Kelly definitely was not pregnant.
And I was placed in hospital and placed on a drip of very strong antibiotics, and it seemed to clear up, but there was really no explanation for it all, and it was left as an open case at the end too.
Could the infection have something to do with what happened that terrifying August night? Could the aliens have, well, maybe that's too far-fetched to even consider. And far-fetched is probably the conclusion John Ockertell and his researchers would have come to if there had not been this breathtaking discovery. Kelly and her husband were not the only humans there. A second car was parked further down the road behind. What happened next would make this one of the most significant encounters of all time.
Later, the two-legged dog with the heart of a bull.
I don't think he can buffalo him anymore here. They about know his limitations.
Now there are 4 ways to get the power of Selsun Blue, the #1 doctor-recommended dandruff shampoo. There's medicated, moisturizing, 2-in-1, balanced, 4 powerful Selsun Blue formulas. Now you've got even more Selsun power.
There's one antiperspirant to use when you're extra, extra close. Arid Extra Extra Dry. The one with Arid Double X protection to help stop wetness and embarrassing odor. Use Arid Extra Extra Dry and get a little closer.
All dryer sheets stop static when your clothes are in the dryer, but not all dryer sheets stop static that well when you're in your clothes. Introducing New Bounce. Only New Bounce stops static better than any other dryer sheet. New Bounce stops static when others just stop.
Oh boy, I can't stop. And my body is, how am I ever gonna?
Vicks NyQuil liquid caps. Why is it the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever medicine? Why, so you can rest medicine, of course.
Gee, Crash, I heard you lost your head in that last one. Oh, I found it okay, but lost my insurance. I had that problem till I called Vern Funk Insurance. They took me with all my tickets, accidents, at a great price, too. They really took good care of me. Wow, that's excellent. How do I get their insurance? Hey, man, just call them toll-free, 1-800-654-SR22.
Stop running all over town. Call Vern Funk Insurance, 1-800-654-SR22. Discounts and payment plans available. Remember to honk when you drive by Vern Funk.
Monday, Brooke's jealousy of Allison is pushing her over the edge.
Why did you trash Allison's apartment?
Stop it! All you care about is her, knowing about her.
And Sydney will do anything to get rid of her sister.
You can't just leave me here.
But how far is she willing to go? A brand new Melrose Place. Then, Ned's hot new girlfriend just can't get enough.
She's bent me in directions that would make Gumby scream.
Wings Farrah guest stars on a brand new Ned and Stacy, followed by Partners Monday.
Kelly Carl's encounter with aliens was significant in its own right, but the events that followed would leave investigators convinced that something out of the ordinary certainly had happened that night. Within sight of Kelly and her husband, 2 other groups of people would prove beyond doubt this encounter was not imagination. Warwick Moss continues the story.
Inside the second car, a married couple, Jane and Bill, with a friend called Glenda. At the moment, they're not ready to tell their story on television, but they have given a full account to John Ockertell's team. An account the researchers have investigated and cross-checked against Kelly's version.
They believe that they've seen a UFO, in the true sense of the word UFO, unidentified flying object. They believe they've seen an entity, in other words, an alien. And I'm not saying this is a space traveller, but that's their belief. They believe that the incident did occur in the field, there's no doubt in their mind, and they believe that they were examined.
The same field, the same night, the same time, even the same feelings of nausea. But at one point, their experience does diverge from Kelly's. There was no fear, no hysteria, just calm. And the 2 women, Jane and Glenda, believe somehow they were transported from the field.
They describe then being in a craft of some sort. They're in a position where they're laying on their back. They can view the roof. They can just view the tip of their toes. They can see a group of faces. There's no speech. They can't see any. They can't speak. However, they can hear things going on, and they seem to be able to talk to each other, but they're not actually speaking.
John Ockatel's team asked Glenda and Jane to sketch what they saw. First, Glenda's impression of the craft. Now, Jane's. But wait a moment. Remember Kelly's impression? Almost identical. Next, the figures they encountered. Glenda drew this. Jane this. And this is Kelly's drawing of the alien with the blazing red eyes. These drawings help make the case unique. Two totally independent, yet identical experiences, documented and investigated by researchers. Rare data that they agree is unbiased and untainted.
Coming from two groups of people that had never met each other or spoken to each other, and both groups knew nothing at all about UFOs or ufology, it was quite a remarkable occurrence to both describe the same thing.
And there are other parts of the two stories that coincide. Just as Kelly lost more than an hour after her scuffle in the field, Glenda and Jane also have time they can't account for. An hour, maybe two. Finally, Kelly's scar. Glenda and Jane were injured too, but in their case, there's photographic evidence.
What you discover is that they have markings in just under their navel, some markings on the inside of their left thigh, and also on one of the girls, they have a bruising above the left ankle, like a cuff, something cuffed around their leg.
In their search for the facts, John Occatel and his researchers literally left no stone unturned. They went to the scene of the encounter, pinpointed by all three women, and took soil samples. These, in turn, were analysed by two different laboratories.
We found lots of unusual anomalies and also magnetic problems, and also lots of changes in the soil chemistry.
Those anomalies included an above-average sulfur content, the presence of a rare carbon compound called pyrene, also tannic acid, all in a crescent-shaped indentation at the spot where all three women said they saw the UFO.
Also, there was a triangle formation on the ground of dead grass, which is spaced out in the circle itself. So it gave us a lot of good leads that there's something had been on the ground, because the physical effects was now starting to destroy the grass in the area.
So what you have are two groups, two stories, in most respects identical. A strange craft, unearthly beings, medical evidence of physical force. But there is still one more loose thread to be tied. You see, all three women report there was a third car at the scene that night. The driver was a man, a witness who could hold a vital clue.
We believe he's still out there, and he'll be suffering like they all suffer with this lack of memory and this lost period of time, even probably to the extent where he thinks he's going mad, so he's still out there.
As for Kelly Carl, she's still trying to put her damaged life back together, still waiting for the emotional wounds to heal, still desperate to find the missing pieces that will help her understand exactly what happened to her that night in August 1993.
You know, I was a married woman with 3 kids. I was just an average housewife. I mean, now it's ruined my marriage. It's ruined my life. It's almost to the stage where I wonder if I'm ever going to be able to have a normal life, because somewhere along the line someone's going to know that, you know, this has happened to me.
Could it be? Or is it all in the mind? Next, for all the wondrous potential of the human mind, it sometimes has its disadvantages. Sometimes it seems we just, we think too much. We use our intelligence to decide our limitations when maybe we should just do it. Watch this. You'll see what I mean. We're witnessing a marvel of nature, the will to survive. An amazing dog called Rusty, who has for a long time defied the notion that man's best friend needs 4 legs to run on. Rusty is fast becoming an international celebrity.
Of course, this dog, he got more Christmas cards this year than I did.
When Bill Davis goes to his mailbox in Greenfield, Iowa these days, he never knows if the mail will be for him or his 8-year-old, 40-pound, 2-legged Australian red heeler. In 1989, Rusty had a bad face-off with a lawnmower, and it looked like the mower won. But within months, he had taught himself to run and jump again. Bill said he actually clocked Rusty running at 17 miles an hour on his remaining 2 legs. But a few months later, a second tragedy seemed likely to end Rusty's upright days forever. He was run over by a neighbor's pickup. His one good rear leg was snapped in 3 places and shattered in 6 others. Bill thought his best friend was a goner. A 1-legged dog wasn't likely to set any speed records.
Oh man, maybe this is going to be the end.
Without much hope, Bill took Rusty to the veterinarian teaching hospital in nearby Ames, Iowa. An orthopedic surgeon inserted metal pins in the leg until it healed, and 3 months later, Rusty took his first new steps as a biped.
Oh, I think he gets along real good, and for bouncing here on 2 legs on one side.
He bounces a bit as he runs, and he seems to use his tail as a rudder. Sometimes he likes to lean on you a bit for balance. The Australian red heeler is bred to be a cattle herder, and 2-legged or not, Rusty still tries to go about his work, even if the cattle don't take him too seriously anymore.
I don't think he can buffalo them anymore here. They about know his limitations.
Those limitations have made Rusty an international star. He's been on television, received mail from all over the world, and even made the front page of an American magazine with Princess Di. Some say you can't believe all you read, and you should doubt even the pictures you see with your own eyes. But Bill says he's got the proof in his fields every day, and the videotape to prove it.
They didn't make this one up, no. We've got the dog here for living proof.
Next, guardian angel who saved Buddy Maxwell's life.
I heard this voice in my ear, very plain, very distinct. I screamed, "Stop!" That really frightened me, and I stopped the car right in the middle of the road. 6 inches away from the front bumper of my car was a freight train going right across the road.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Phillips. Thanks to the Malibu Psychic Star Network, you can now get your free personalized natal chart when you call our psychics. You can use this natal chart for future calls with the Malibu Psychic Star Network. Our psychics can talk to you about your love life, career, tarot cards, relationships, and guardian angels. Call the Malibu Psychic Star Network today. You'll be glad you did.
I loved getting my free natal chart. It's amazing what I found out. when the changelings reach Earth.
My duty is to protect the Federation.
That's what we're trying to do. Suspicion is everywhere.
With those troops in place, Admiral Layton controls Earth.
And war is imminent. But the real threat...
You think that one Starfleet ship is going to fire on another?
...is closer to home.
They've been told everyone on the Defiant has been replaced by shapeshifters.
On an all-new episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Monday at 10 on Q13 Fox.
It's the hottest thing on ice as the world's top figure skaters compete to a rock and roll beat. Take a spin with gold medalist Christy Yamaguchi, Katarina Witt, Scott Hamilton, Oksana Bayul, four-time world champion Kurt Browning, and many more as they burn up the ice to the coolest music in rock. Join hosts Dorothy Hamill and NFL's James Brown, plus special guest Downtown Julie Brown for the 1996 Fox Rock and Roll Skating Championships Tuesday.
Billy wants to work on airplanes when he grows up. Maybe one that you'll fly in. Now, would you like this free booklet of simple ways you can help improve his education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE. Sally wants to be a surgeon someday. Maybe she'll operate on you. Now, would you like a free booklet of simple ways you can help improve her education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
At any moment, our lives can take a wrong turn, walk up the wrong street at the wrong time. We have brushes with danger we don't even know about sometimes. For want of a better expression, we call it the work of our guardian angels. But for Buddy Maxwell, it's not just an expression. He knows someone is out there, and he knows who she is.
And I heard this voice in my ear, very plain, very distinct. And all it said, but very simply, was, stop.
Buddy Maxwell admits he's a lucky man. He's been in situations he had no reason getting out of, places he had no expectations of leaving. And today, living the good life in the California sun, he has time to reflect on what and who helped get him so far.
Aside from thinking I've led a charmed life, I feel in my heart that my grandmother has been looking out for me, even though she's been long gone now. Well, her influence over me, I guess, just seems to have got me out of so many jams and scrapes that I've been into.
Buddy felt his grandmother was always there for him. When he was a kid, after he joined the Air Force in time for the Korean War, even after he said his final goodbyes at her deathbed.
I don't know if it's allowed to say this, John, but I'd like to think that I've been through hell so many times I qualify as a tour guide. And I just felt my grandmother hanging overhead looking out for me.
That's why Buddy Maxwell wrote a letter to The Extraordinary to tell us about an incident that took place a year after his grandmother died. Today, 3,000 miles and 3 decades away, that night still manages to bring a tear to his eye and send a chill down his spine.
I didn't used to believe in ghosts or spirits I even thought the horoscope was a joke, you know, but it's impossible to explain it. On an occasion where I was visiting with the relatives of some friends of mine, and we had traveled from Atlantic City up to Camden, New Jersey. And the evening went well enough, you know, but on the way back, we stayed pretty late. And I had to go back to work the next morning. I was anxious to return back home to Atlantic City as rapidly as I could. And my friends are with me. I had my friend and his wife, and a 6-month-old baby that she had sleeping peacefully in her arms. And my friend's sister was asleep. They're all sleeping in the car with me.
Buddy drove on, heading north out of the marshland and over the back roads of New Jersey. But from the start, it was evident this wouldn't be a smooth ride.
The time of the year was about late September, and there's a phenomenon in southern New Jersey there that creates sort of what we call a patch fog. Patches of high humidity fog. And I'm driving, I'd say approximately 50 miles an hour, back country road. And just a two-lane highway it was. But there's a white stripe down the asphalt, just barely discernible through the fog that I was able to guide my way through the road.
Buddy remembers he drove on for about 20 miles, peering through the fog, his passengers sleeping, when something happened.
I heard this voice in my ear, very plain, very distinct. And all it said, but very simply, was, "Stop." And I looked at my friends to see if they were kidding me or maybe somebody had to go to the bathroom or I don't know what happens, you know. But they were all sound asleep. And I just, disregarded it to my imagination, and I just kept on going. Didn't reduce the speed at all, just kept on going.
And then, seemingly from out of nowhere, the voice called again.
Much louder, much more apprehensive. And said, "Stop." And I got a little frightened, I thought maybe the radio, where I looked at my friends again, they were still all asleep. I thought maybe it was the wind whistling in my ear, I closed the window. So I kept on going. I didn't reduce the speed. And then just a few minutes later after that, it was almost like a shout. Right in my ear, I screamed, "Stop!" That really frightened me. And I stopped the car right in the middle of the road. And the fog at that point was so dense, I couldn't even see the highway. I couldn't even see the front end of my car. I stepped out of the car and put my foot on the asphalt, and I felt this rumbling. And I couldn't see a blessed thing in front of me at all. So I felt my way up. I heard this loud rumbling sound. And there was a vibration in the road itself. And I felt my way up to the front of the car. And the fog lifted for just a brief second or two. And just 6 inches away from the front bumper of my car was a freight train going right across the road. No lights, no warning, no signals, no other sound, but that sound in my voice that came in my ear that saved all our lives. Surely at the speed I was traveling, we would have been killed if I just ignored that last stop. Finally, the train passed. It took me a good half hour or so before I stopped shaking. I was that frightened. Before I could get back in the car, and I very slowly drove back to Atlantic City. And I told my friends later on what happened, and they laughed. They thought I was joking. They couldn't believe it, but it actually happened to me. And I thought about it with reflection. I just know it was my grandmother. Tell me it was not my time to die.
Next, a love affair that began at birth.
He just pulled out a little box and he asked me to marry him. And I said yes.
Peter Barnes can't wait to shake his cold. Pills take time to dissolve, so he'll rush relief with the effervescent power of Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. It's ready the moment you take it, rushing powerful medicines to soothe your aches, relieve your runny nose, free your breathing. Nothing rushes relief like Alka-Seltzer Plus. Or rush relief with new great-tasting orange-flavored Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Stop static in the dryer, but not all dryer sheets stop static that well when you're in your clothes. Introducing New Bounce. Only Bounce stops static better than any other dryer sheet. New Bounce. Stop static when others just stop.
Introducing softer, longer-lasting Freedent.
This is softer.
Lots easier to chew.
The flavor, it just keeps going and going.
Softer chewing, longer lasting.
Now this is great gum.
Try new non-stick Freedent. It's better than ever.
Allow me to present new Ritz Air Crisps, a rather delicate new snack. Never eat more than one at a time.
New Ritz Air Crisps. Inhale them.
Mom always gave me chicken soup when I was sick. Today, I give my daughter something more nutritious, Pediasure.
Pediasure provides more complete, balanced nutrition than chicken soup, milkshakes, or gelatin. Ask your pediatrician about Pediasure.
This next story is one of pure chance. A young woman driving alone. Suddenly an awareness of someone in her rearview mirror watching her, following her. She was about to come face to face with her past and change her future forever.
Christine Reichenbach was driving to work. It was an average day on an average street of her hometown of Brunswick, New Jersey. Christine was single. She had a good job. And today she was relaxed, not paying particular attention to her rear view mirror. But after a few miles, his presence became unavoidable. Someone was following her.
It's pretty obvious to, see somebody's following you. You're looking in your rearview mirror, and you switch a lane, he switches a lane. I get up to a stop sign, the next thing I know, he's right behind me already, and I was really shocked. You hear of all these crazy people out there, and all of a sudden now I have this crazy person behind me.
Christine was about to have an encounter with destiny, a moment in which her past would miraculously catch up with her present and set the blueprint for the rest of her life.
Sometimes I think that it was fate. Sometimes it was meant to be. But then on the other hand, you just think, well, maybe, I caught up to her car because it turned that right way because I was going to go get gas there, something like that, which was just coincidental. Sometimes it just goes through your head and you say, maybe it was meant to be.
I believe in fate, yeah.
It was a chance meeting that would have a happy ending, but would also open the door to a sequence of incredible coincidences for herself and the man in the car behind. Unbeknown to either Christine or her pursuer, this was a moment of reunion. They had, in fact, met many years earlier, on December 9th, 1963. The place where they met was this building, the Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital on the other side of town. Robert was born in the delivery room here at 2:27 a.m. that day. 14 minutes later, Christine was born in the same room. Their mothers shared each other's happiness for several days and actually speculated how ironic it would be if their newborn babies met up and married one day. For 7 years after their births, the two mothers would visit each other's homes, and little Christine Reichenbach and Robert Armstrong would play together.
We used to, play a little bit of games. He was a lot more outgoing than I was, coming from a larger family. He would try to get me to play games with him, and I was always shy in the corner,
When we were kids, it was just Chris, and it was the girl I was born next to at that time. You know, and that's how I knew her, and I knew her mom and her dad pretty much. But as far as the last name, if you asked me when I was 7 if I could tell you what their last name was, it was more my mom's friend when their daughter would come over.
And there were other coincidences. Both their fathers were named Roger. Bob's mother was named Doris, and Christine's was Dorothy. Both had brothers named Richard. The unlikely similarities led the two families to form a friendly bond that lasted 7 years, until Robert's family moved to another town. The two children born at the same place on the same day were parted, in all probability never to see each other again. Until you flash forward to that day, many years later, as Christine was driving to work and became unnerved by the sight of a young man in her rear view mirror.
I was driving and I had seen a nice-looking girl in a car. Figured, you know, why not? Let's follow her, and I followed her. I had been going with somebody, and I was just breaking it off at the time.
You know, I would date from time to time, but I really wasn't serious with anybody at the time I met Bobby.
When Christine finally stopped and asked Bob what he wanted, she was surprised at the answer.
We just started talking. I had asked him, you know, hi, how you doing? Why are you following me? Because, I mean, that's not something that I think that's normal. He just wanted to say hello. He did all of that just to say hello.
When each went home and told their parents about the encounter, the reaction was the same.
My mother looked at me dumbfounded, like, you know, doesn't that name ring a bell to you? And I'm like, but no, I mean, you know, why should it? It's just some girl I just met. Why would it ring a bell? And then my mother explained that. Well, what happened with me, with my mother, happened to Chris with her mother, was the same thing where she didn't recognize the last name or the person.
And she goes, well, do you know who he is? I'm like, no, not really. She goes, well, that's the boy that you were born next to. And I'm like,
if she would have met me with my mom maybe and my sister, maybe she would have known who I was, but I usually don't take them to go on dates.
I mean, if you don't see somebody for such a long time, I mean, a lot of things change about a person.
Right there, I was almost in hysterics on it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, you know? And she said, she was like, no, she said, she was even amazed too. She's like, I don't even believe you have a date with her, because what are the odds of you running into her? Even though she's one town over, the towns we're from are pretty large.
Bob and Christine would date each other for 4 years before officially bowing to the will of fate in New York Central Park.
It was raining and he was looking for a horse and buggy. I couldn't figure out why he was looking for those, but we would go for a walk, and he just pulled out a little box and he asked me to marry him, and I said yes. And I just thought it was strange to get engaged in the middle of, I mean, out in the middle of Central Park. It's not your safest place to be.
She gasped for air, I remember. And I said, well, I guess this is it. I said, will you marry me? And that's all it was. And she said, yeah. And that was pretty much it.
The wedding took place in their hometown on September 17th, 1988. And like two 7-year-old kids whose lives had come full circle, they honeymooned at Disneyland. Coming up, confrontation. A 30-year-old male meets a female for the first time.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Phillips. Thanks to the Malibu Psychic Star Network, you can now get your free personalized natal chart when you call our psychics. You can use this natal chart for future calls with the Malibu Psychic Star Network. Our psychics can talk to you about your love life, career, tarot cards, relationships, and guardian angels. Call the Malibu Psychic Star Network today. You'll be glad you did.
I love getting my free natal chart. It's amazing what I found out.
Are you ready for some rubber-burning, gear-slamming, axle-smashing, rolling-over, truck-burning, high-flying, hard-driving traction action? How that happened makes you wonder. Northwest Chevy Dealers presents the Napa Auto Parts Motor Spectacular in association with Budweiser. Tacoma Dome, January 19th, 20th, and 21st. Smokecraft Monster Truck Challenge. Featuring Bigfoot and many more. Demo Derby, motocross, rollovers, and roll-outs. Kids get a free Monster Truck Challenge souvenir photo. Kids half price with Burger King coupons. Tickets at Ticketmaster.
St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner, and what better way to celebrate than with a run through the streets of downtown Seattle? It's the 12th annual Weinhardt's Ale St. Patrick's Day Dash, co-sponsored by Q13 Fox. Wear your green and take part in the Northwest's most enjoyable fun run. Register by March 15th at any of these running stores in the Puget Sound area. Call 800-683-8393 for information. There is no day of race registration. Celebrate a Northwest Irish tradition with over 10,000 folks wearing the green. It's Seattle's biggest fun run, the St. Patrick's Day Dash.
My hen is dancing in the farmyard.
Grandpa, I like this story.
I know you do, sweetheart.
If you have a sudden loss of vision in one eye,
She takes 2 steps forward.
look for help immediately. Learn the warning signs of stroke. If you are having trouble understanding others,
Hey, are you doing?
speak out. Learn the warning signs of stroke.
Your watch.
Gee, Crash, I heard you lost your head in that last one. Oh, I found it okay, but lost my insurance. I had that problem until I called Vern Funk Insurance. They took me with all my tickets, accidents, at a great price, too. They really took good care of me. Wow, that's excellent. How do I get their insurance? Hey, man, just call them, toll-free, 1-800-654-SR22.
Stop running all over town. Call Vern Funk Insurance, 1-800-654-SR22. Discounts and payment plans available. Remember to honk when you drive by Vern Funk.
Weeknights on Q13.
Stay right where you are!
Between right and wrong stands a thin blue line.
Hands up, let me see it!
At 11:30, it's the original and still the best.
An officer down behind Circus Circus.
It's Cops. Then at midnight, when crime happens in Los Angeles, it's time to call in the LAPD.
It's our job to take him down if he comes out the front.
The only way to get closer to the action is to wear a badge. Cops and LAPD, weeknights on Q13.
Gorillas are the most fascinating of all animals, don't you think? No question we see a reflection of ourselves in their behavior. Well, in this story, the gorilla's behavior is about as close to the average guy's behavior as you're ever going to get. Allison Holloway tells us all about it.
Watch closely. Ivan the gorilla, all 375 pounds of him, in a face-off with 2 young females. Ivan has never been in the company of female gorillas in all his 30 years, and his reaction, well, maybe what any other guy's would be. Now, don't get the wrong idea about Ivan and his relationship with the opposite sex. In the circumstances, zoo officials in Atlanta, Georgia say he's doing just great with his new social life now. But that week in June, that was some week. Transferred from Seattle Zoo the previous October, Ivan was already trying to make the adjustment to his new surroundings. Then in March, the zoo let him wander outside a cage for the first time. He seemed to like gathering his own food. But the big shock was yet to come. It happened on the morning of June 25th. The zookeepers let 2 females named Coochie and Molly into his cage. Ivan had never been in the company of any gorilla, let alone a female, or 2 females. There was a standoff from the beginning. Molly opted to be a spectator. Coochie decided to see what the big guy was made of.
It was the biggest day to date in Ivan's life. It was the day that he became less dependent upon people and more of an opportunity, really, to be a social gorilla. Today is the first day of the rest of Ivan's social life as a gorilla.
By the second day, Ivan seemed to be taking charge. When he spoke, even Coochie seemed to listen. Primate experts say this is important before apes can mate. Ivan has to be the boss.
He is getting more assertive, and, you know, to a certain extent that's good, that You know, he's not going to be pushed around, and he's not going to be aggressive and push them around. What we're looking for is a balance among, you know, in that kind of behavior, so that eventually everybody will sit back and relax, and they'll quit having to prove themselves to each other, and maybe some mutual attraction might start.
Coochie and Molly seemed to be playing along with the plan. And then, on day 3, June 27th, it happened. First, Coochie seemed to draw the line behind a line of shrubbery. Soon, Molly came into the picture, and the showdown began. Ivan had never seen anything like this in his life. Zoo officials weren't disappointed, however. They say the gorilla mating game is a complicated thing, and it can take a year or two before a couple gets serious. In this case, it may take a little longer.
We're here! Edward! Oh, come back to Auntie Dot, you cute little thing! Edward!
Is it possible there's a bathroom tissue that feels as soft as facial tissue? Only if it's squeezably soft Charmin Ultra.
Edward, come out here. Give your Auntie Dot another kiss.
Charmin Ultra. It's not just softer, it's facial tissue soft.
Edward, are you in there?
All right, let's top it off here.
The coffee perking in this pot is America's best-loved coffee.
As long as fathers dance with daughters. As long as there are welcome mats. And childhood sweethearts. Just as long as families come together, Maxwell House will always be good to the last drop.
You just have to feel it.
Oil of Olay 2-in-1 Moisturizing Body Wash.
I got out of the shower, ready to put my body lotion on, and my skin, it felt so good I didn't have to.
It's 75% moisturizer, so as it cleans, it actually improves skin's condition.
Yeah, I was a total convert after just one shower.
Day after day, it gives skin more and more moisture.
It got even better after the second and the third and the fourth shower.
Oil of Olay 2-in-1 Moisturizing Body Wash.
It's amazing. The more you use it, the better your skin gets.
Hey, Mr. Peanut, what's new?
New Planters reduced fat peanuts.
45% less fat. Does that mean I get to eat more? And get real peanuts. How do you do that?
He's a genius.
He's a genius. And they're honey roasted.
I'm tasting the future. Get to know Mr. Peanut. Eat your Planters.
Introducing softer, longer-lasting Freedent.
This is softer.
Lots easier to chew.
The flavor, it just keeps going and going.
Softer chewing, longer lasting.
Now this is great gum.
Try new nonstick Freedent. It's better than ever.
Think, Howie, why does your throat, your cough, your fever all feel worse? Because it's nighttime, and you can dwell on it. Take what you use during the day. Wrong. You'll still be up all night coughing. Your speech will bomb at the convention.
Nighttime is no time for a 1 or 2 symptom medicine you take during the day.
Room service, you have any NyQuil? The corner drugstore?
With Vicks NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can rest medicine. The difference is night and day.
David Booth has a story he'd rather he didn't. In a recurring nightmare, Booth heard the sounds of engines failing. He saw a plane, an American Airlines plane, roll in the air and crash to the ground. For 10 nights in a row, David Booth had the same dream. On May 22nd, 1979, he telephoned the Federal Aviation Authority. He called American Airlines and a psychiatrist in his hometown of Cincinnati. He told them about his dream. 4 days later, an American Airlines DC-10 crashed in Chicago. 275 people died. At that time, the worst accident in U.S. air history. David Booth had seen the crash before it happened, including the fact that the plane had crashed to the earth upside down.
Pills
take time to dissolve, but the effervescent power of Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine is ready the moment you take it to relieve your worst cold symptoms. Nothing rushes relief like Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Just look at me now, dear. I haven't a care.
Hello, Marco.
Madame? Because everywhere I turn.
Hello, Marco.
Good afternoon, madame.
Marco. Hello, Marco.
The only thing better than having a
Smart Pop.
is having a dream.
94% fat-free, 100% carefree. Smart Pop from Orville Redenbacher.
You got the dress and all the rest. The look you're looking for. Now you got more.
Now, Caress has more rich moisturizer for softer skin.
You got the walk, the smile, the talk. You got style galore. Now you got more.
More moisturizer. Now Caress does more for your skin. Leaves it softer, smoother than any soap can.
You're feeling good, 'cause baby, now you got more.
Before you dress, Caress.
It's coming. A miserable cold and the power to fight it. All the power of Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine is in Alka-Seltzer Plus liquid gels. Rush relief with Alka-Seltzer Plus liquid gels.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Phillips. Thanks to the Malibu Psychic Star Network, you can now get your free personalized natal chart when you call our psychics. You can use this natal chart for future calls with the Malibu Psychic Star Network. Our psychics can talk to you about your love life, career, tarot cards, relationships, and guardian angels. Call the Malibu Psychic Star Network today. You'll be glad you did.
I love getting my free natal chart. It's amazing what I found out.
Is there life after football? Is there going to be hitting? Passing? Scoring? Well, that's what I'm hearing. But I'm sure these guys are nowhere near as tough as football players. Well, maybe I was wrong.
The NHL All-Star Game, Saturday, January 20th on Fox.
The information superhighway, communication at the press of a button. We tend to think it's getting better in the modern age. But then you hear a story like this one, and you realize there is evil everywhere.
As the internet grows and access becomes freer and easier, the problem's going to grow. It's that false sense of security that it won't happen to me.
My childhood life is ruined because of it, you know.
More on Satan on the internet next time. Also, the strange curse of the rainbow serpent, Anthony Hopkins, and a 1,000,000,000 coincidence, and a surgeon who operates with his toes. For now, good night. See you in the future.
Promotional consideration provided by
New Blistex Lip Tone, a lip balm with proven Blistex moisturizers, plus a slight touch of color to enhance their natural pigment. Blistex Lip Tone, a touch of color, total care.
Introducing Minwax Hardwood Floor Cleaner. Applied directly to clean and beautify. Minwax Hardwood Floor Cleaner keeps wood beautiful.
Slick 50 protects the vital moving parts of your engine for up to 50,000 miles. Slick 50 starting your engine without it is a terrible thing to do.
Q30 on Northwest Original.
Northwest Chevy Dealers presents the Napa Auto Parts Motor Spectacular in association with Budweiser. Awesome. Non-stop motor action. Tacoma Dome. January 19th, 20th, and 21st. The Smokecraft Monster Truck Challenge. TV stars Bigfoot, Snakebite, Dragon Slayer, Renegade, Blue Max, Airborne, Ranger, and Executioner. Championship motocross racing. Explosive rollover. Hard-hitting demo derby. Plus Battle of the Robots. Electron versus Reptar. Only meet the drivers. Ticketmaster. Half price with Burger King coupons. Sentimental action at Tacoma Dome.
You're a sweetheart. If there ever was one, it's you.
This is Melissa Gilbert. Help reduce the risk for sudden infant death syndrome. Place your little sweetheart on his back or side for sleep, and you'll both have sweeter dreams.
You are every sweet dream come true.
There was a time when you were sure you could change the world. If you're still willing to try, we've discovered a pretty good place to start. It's compassionate, it's efficient, and it works. Care. It's time to care. Again.
You're watching Q13 Fox.
Q13 Fox.